Uh, right. Hello, I guess. This is mainly to myself. Um, this will be the first thing I upload to this channel. I don't really know what I'm gonna do with it yet. It's more sort of a way of getting down things that I have in my head that I can't really articulate to like people, like therapists or family, friends, all of that. And so my plan is that I know I can sort of articulate things best when I'm on my own thinking about it, when I'm, as you can see, playing a video game. So I'm just playing some Grand Theft Auto while talking, in a sense, and I think that might be able to help keep me focused to really get across the points that I sort of, well, I say points, topics and things that I think about. And so, I mean, the gameplay isn't going to be interesting. I mean, what I might have to say isn't really going to be interesting to a lot of people that may or may not see this. It's just as a way for me to sort of sort out a lot of things that I think about. And so that might include some problems I'm currently experiencing, some problems that I have experienced, ways that I'm trying to deal with them, ways that they make me feel. And so it's it's an interesting one. Um, this is something I've wanted to do for a little while. Well, not in this capacity. Uh, Sort of, for instance, I did actually start the process of making a video game in an engine that is called RPG Maker. It's only a simple thing. It's fairly easy for me to learn and work with, considering I'm not too experienced in this whole in the whole sort of game production process. But when I have an idea, I sort of want to get it done as quick as possible before it becomes old news in my head, because that's how my crippling ADHD makes it work. It's a great idea in the moment, but it might not work sort of a few months down the line after I've initially thought about it. And so I sort of thought, instead of, well, I'd also worked a little bit with RPG Maker before. I did a sort of dummy project that I ended up abandoning because I reinstalled Windows on my computer, but I didn't really know how anything else worked, like Unreal Engine or Unity or anything like that, and so I stuck with what I was familiar with and what I had at my disposal to get everything done, if you will. And so I think for me, right now, this is going to be the best way I can articulate things that I'm thinking about. Because, as I say, you know, if I'm concentrating while playing a video game or something, and I can just sit around and drive, or just walk around, perch on a cliff or whatnot, it it's sort of equivalent to someone going out and about and finding a nice bench on a hiking trail or something to sit on and just admiring the view. Like that this is how I process like the day's events, my life's events. It's how I sort of take inventory of my life, my memories and experiences. Maybe because video games are a lot of my experiences. This is my escape at the end of the day. Uh, I don't really know how I'm gonna start this off. I know I've just gone on a bit of a tirade about what I intend to do with this, but as I say, this is just mainly for me, um, sort of documenting how I feel. And with YouTube, I sort of think it's easier for me to just, instead of sort of having private videos, they're out there, and those that come across these and find that they have similar experiences or similar problems may be able to find something that can articulate their feelings a bit better. Or, I don't know, if I find myself back in therapy again and I can't really talk about things because it's, you know, it's a new environment, new person, and I'm anxious. I can just say, right, I've got all of these. You might have to do a bit of homework, but this is where my mind is at, and you can see that through these. And so that's sort of what my hope is for this channel. I mean, as you can see by the name of the channel, it's called Exterior Monologue. It's me talking about things that would usually just stay in my head, but are obviously not in my head now. And so, yeah, that's basically what I want to do with this. I don't know if this is going to be something in which I upload every day or every week or every month, maybe even twice a year. You know, it might be something that I think, oh, there's an interesting topic I can talk about today, or something bad's happened and I really need to get it off my chest because I don't feel like I have anyone to talk to. And so that's what it is. There's no sort of proper schedule to this. I'm not sort of booking in an appointment every week where I record for 15 minutes to an hour or something, and then I just waffle. This is just be whenever I feel like I need to do this, I can. And I mean, as you can tell by how slow these videos, or this has already been, very little editing is going to go into this. So I don't know, I might trim down the short in the end so it gets started and ends sort of properly, but other than that, it's going to be almost completely unedited. It's just me talking. And so with that, I sort of want to... I don't really know what I want to talk about today. I was thinking about doing this last night, and what a topic sort of stuck out to me, but I wasn't sure if I was actually going to do it, and that sort of topic was I can't even think properly because I'm concentrating on this. It was sort of about why I feel like I'm not progressing, in a sense. I suppose what I mean by that is progressing in the sense that, well, I'm in my mid-20s, I'm 24, and in 5 months I'm going to be 25, and I've got nothing. I know, like, a lot of people say, people in their sort of 30s, 40s and onwards, they say, you know, in my 20s I had no idea what I was doing. You know, I was just kind of going with the flow, but... And I know I'm literally in the midst of that right now. Like I say, I'm in my mid-20s. I'm pretty much exactly, or at least very soon, exactly going to be in the middle of that. And it doesn't make it feel any better. Like, people saying, oh, you know, I don't really know what I was doing, or I didn't really know what I was doing in my 20s. It doesn't really make it feel better. I still feel like I have this sort of overwhelming pressure to find a purpose, but with the way that my life currently is, I sort of don't have... Well, one, I can't really do it because, well, I'm basically disabled. I mean, physically, I suffer with chronic back pain, and so that makes going out anywhere, like for a walk, for instance, I can't walk to the top of my street without feeling excruciating pain in my lower back, and that's sort of about 150 meters at most. And so, yeah, that's not great. I can't really go out for a walk to clear my head or anything, which I suppose is another reason why I'm doing this. And mentally, I've got so many ailments, I can't even keep track of them all now. Well, like I say, I've got ADHD, I've got that quite bad, and I'm trying to find a medication that works for it. I've gone through a few. I think, is it stimulant ones, the ones that you can just take and within, like, I don't know, half an hour to an hour you feel a noticeable difference. I've gone through 2 of them, I think. None of them worked. I've gone through different dosages of them. And so I'm now trying, I've just started them on my second day now of the, I think it's the non-stimulant ones, the ones that you sort of have to let build up in your system a bit. And so I'm sort of hoping that these will give me a bit more headroom to sort of think without being overwhelmed by different thoughts that just sort of plague my mind all the time. I also have autism, or ASD. I know the term isn't really used anymore, but it was Asperger's. I think I was sort of put on. I was tested when I was 10 years old, I think, and so it was in a sort of time where obviously I was trying to form who I was as a person. I was still very, very young. And I think because of that, I was still so afraid of the world and everything, and so I didn't really get across a lot of my points, and I didn't really make myself as vulnerable as I probably should have during those sessions and that assessment. And so I was listed as borderline for, for about 10 years. I think it was either when I was 20 or had just turned 21, I was finally diagnosed with ASD. And, I wanted to have it done because I wanted to know where I stood in the world. You know, I was never, because I was borderline in places like school, or extracurricular activities that I didn't really do, but I was never really offered extra assistance where I might have benefited. So I know for me, personally, a big struggle of mine was having a lot of my like schoolwork. I couldn't really write it down on paper properly, but I could sort of give the answers in a verbal form. I always remember one day when it was in my first year of college. I was in a pathway course because I'd failed my English, and that meant I had to do a few more GCSE subjects alongside resitting English, and I had to do psychology. And in my written work, it got so bad to the point where, my teacher had to call my mum in, because, it was just so poor. And the teacher was like, you know what, do you want to just move up to the level 3 stuff, like the actual post GCSE stuff that you want to do, which was at the time IT. And I said no, I was actually quite enjoying it because I'd found a group of friends and I was happy there. Well, I say happy, I was happier there. You know, that was my best year of education, I think. I really, really enjoyed that. And so I stuck with it, but then the teacher decided to, my mum said, I'm pretty sure she said something along the lines of, you can't really write stuff down, but you ask him a question, and he'll be able to sort of articulate the answer quite well. And so that's what the teacher did. She asked me a question about, I can't remember what it was exactly, but I think it was about a particular psychology case study, and I was able to rattle off the details like that. It was quick. It came to me instantly, and I'm pretty sure she was kind of amazed. Just, wow, you can't really write stuff down, but I'm a sponge for information. And I mean, I've always had trouble doing that. And I mean, I was 16 when that happened, or 17. I think I was 16. But that's been happening throughout my entire school career. Well, that was happening throughout my entire school career. Obviously, I'm no longer in school. Um, but I didn't really notice it until I had the first-hand experience from right there. I had both sides. I had the bad written work, and I was, well, obviously being a bit older as well. You come to understand yourself and your world and your surroundings a bit more, and so I think that helped a big chunk. Um, and I think finally having a diagnosis on paper was really good. Well, it was really good for a little while. Being able to finally say, you know what, this is how I am. These are the difficulties that I have. But part of me just can't help but think every day it was too little too late. Obviously, I got my diagnosis when I say I was, 20? And so that's after I'm an adult. I'm an adult at this point, a fully grown adult, and I've had all of these behaviours that I've learned throughout the years. So, in order to sort of keep myself protected in the world, I've had them so ingrained in my head that they've become nature. I mean, it's masking. That's what it is. I mean, I still do it. I still do it to people that I've known for years and I'm safe around. And I will continue to do it probably until the day I die. It sucks. I've been working on trying to stop it, but unfortunately, it's one of those things where I have to say the classic, it is what it is. I've come to terms with the fact that I will probably never, ever show my true face to people. Even my closest friends that I would say probably know me the best. I mean, my poor mum, she's had to put up with my crap for so many years. And she does know me incredibly well, but she will never truly know me, and I don't know if that's out of a sort of want. Well, I think I do want to keep myself private to an extent, even to those that help. But I think it's just out of a need for survival, if you will, like a defense mechanism. That's the one I'm looking for. And because of that, obviously I can never really talk to people properly, and even if I do talk to them, I will always omit certain details. That could, I don't know, potentially be the key to unlocking something that I've not currently thought of. Because obviously, even though I live in my head all the time, and I know I did really bad at psychology, but I really enjoy it. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. It's not my line of work. It's not my specialty. The only real claim to fame I have in that regard is the fact that I'm so self-aware. I don't think therapy works, but it's all I know, so that's why I keep putting myself through it. And I think, again, this is why I'm trying to do this, because if I'm just talking to myself, yeah, I'm uploading these videos, but this is where I can be truly honest. And so I can't talk to people directly because it's embarrassing. It's just, I think as a 24 going on 25-year-old man, there are people younger than me that have their lives together, they have their shit together. But if anything, I feel like a child. I can't really do anything for myself. I have to be prompted to do some basic things. And sort of the way I'm living my life now, it's just how I imagined a 15-year-old would live their life. It's a really weird thing. So I sort of felt, when I was sort of 15, 16, I felt like I had the brain of a 25-year-old. And I know, obviously, people when they're young, and sort of especially in their teenage years when they're going through puberty, they have a sort of self-righteous phase where they believe that they're right and the world is wrong. And I mean, I'm no exception. I went through that. But this sort of felt different in a sense. I didn't sort of feel like I knew the world. Like, I didn't know everything. I just sort of felt like I'm a bit more mature than my peer groups. You know, I can look at things from the lens of the way an adult would look at them, per se. Whereas now, I can still definitely do that. And I would like to say I do have more emotional intelligence than the average 24-year-old. But I just... it's so hard to explain, even to like myself. Like, I know what I want to say, but I can't really think of the words. Like, it's such a difficult feeling to express when, well, you've never really expressed it before. Obviously, you've been so deep-rooted in your ways for going on a quarter of a century that you just sort of forget who the true person is. And I think that's one of my major problems now. I sort of don't really know who I am or what I want to be. And I think what's really hurting right now is the fact that I don't think I will ever know that information. At the moment, as much as I hate to say it, my entire life is just issue after issue after issue, and I will never solve that. Well, I mean, you know, those that are depressed will know, you know, you don't really see a way out. You can't think of a way to sort of leave the world you're currently in, even if it's detrimental, because, you know, it's all you know. But I can't really, well, I suppose, yeah, it's just, I can't really see a way out of this. And so, because of that, I can't really bring myself to see things in a positive light or imagine where I'm going to be, apart from, I don't know, a ditch off the A40. And that sucks, you know. I know a lot of people are depressed out there, you know. A lot of people have their own issues, and that's, you know, that's fine. You know, that's how the world is. That's how humans are, you know. Human consciousness is a very... Well, I go by the philosophy that I think we are either very early in the stages of evolution where human consciousness is still working out its issues, or I believe it's a misstep in evolution and it's a complete mistake. It's so fragile. I mean, it can be broken so easily that your sort of illusion of safety can be broken so easily. You know, a lot of our minds, we still run on our monkey brain, and so we just choose whatever we can for survival, and that's the comfiest route and not necessarily the most healthiest. And that, I think, is where a lot of people start to fall short in their life. Like me, for instance, you know, I'm sat here playing a video game at, what's the time right now? It's 10:34 in the morning on a Wednesday. Any functional adult would be, I don't know, at work, socialising with their co-workers, or, I don't know, earning a living. And I'm here playing Grand Theft Auto, doing absolutely nothing with my life apart from yelling into a microphone. And I don't even really do that for I don't even do that for a living. This is the first time I'm doing this. I think for me, it just... I can't see myself going anywhere at all. You know, I think a few people as well, I could be sorely mistaken here, but a few people like have their life plan figured out. It's just, you know, by 25 I want to be able to do this, and by 30 I want to have this. You know, they have goals, they have ambitions, and I I don't see myself as alive past 30, to be honest. I always just sort of imagine myself, well, I imagine I'll have either died due to some health issue, or I'll have died due to my own hand. By the time I'm 30, you know, I genuinely cannot picture my life as a middle-aged man. I haven't accounted for that at all in any way, shape, or form, and so as much as that sucks, you know, it's the way my mind works. You know, chances are I probably will live until I'm 30 and onwards, but I mean, I don't have a clue of what I'm doing now. Probably won't have a clue at all of what I'm doing when I'm 30, and because I've had no plan set in place, because I don't plan to really be alive, I'm going to be in the exact same spot I am now when I'm 30. Like, it's... And that really gets under my skin. And I know, obviously, a lot of people can just go, well, just, you know, make a goal, even if it's unrealistic. Just give yourself something to strive towards. And yeah, I could do that. But I'm a perfectionist alongside absolutely everything in my life. So, you know, that doesn't really work out great. And so I don't want to make a goal unless it's something I know I can achieve to the best of my ability. And so, yeah, I don't really set goals unless... I think the ADHD comes into that as well, so I don't really set goals unless I know I can achieve them and get the dopamine from them. My brain doesn't sort of register, well, even if I don't do it, I'll have learned something, and that in itself is a reward. I know life, a lot of people say it's about the journey, not the destination, but my brain doesn't see it that way. It is the destination. That's what you're working towards. That's the whole point. And I know that is the wrong philosophy to have, especially if you want to live a happy life. But again, I'm so deep set in my ways that I can't really, even though I know the other perspective exists, I can't see that perspective, if you will. Like, I can't put myself in that perspective. I can't sort of do that for myself. It has to be whatever I perceive sort of success, purpose, and whatnot to be. And unfortunately for me, that is a sort of perfectionist mindset, which I know is just unattainable. And so I'm constantly in this battle of, I need to find purpose. I need to find something to do with my life, because otherwise I'm gonna be sort of either 40 years old and, well, decrepit with nothing to say for myself, or I'm gonna be dead. And out of those two possibilities, the scarier one is being alive and having nothing to show for it. And so I would rather be dead. And I think that's just what I'm preparing for. You know, I for some reason I have this weird sort of, I say fantasy, but it's not really a fantasy because I don't really want it to happen. But it's sort of, I play a lot of things out in my head, like hypotheticals. A sort of hypothetical in my head where one day, I know in the next couple of years, I go in to get like a routine blood test and I find out I have like stage 4 cancer. And I know people are going to think, well, why the fuck have you thought of that? You know, that's a really weird thing to think of. But I think for me, in that sense, it with stage 4 cancer, you know, you're not really curing that. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I think when I know that I have like 6 months left or something, that'll be when I finally decide to get my arse in gear and do something. But obviously by that point it'll be too late. And I'm trying to sort of find a way to put myself in the mindset of having that motivation, want to actually do something with my life before it's too late. And it's just, I know I'm only 24, you know, I'm currently meant to be experiencing the best years of my life. Well, if this is the best, I can only imagine what the worst is going to be. But it's, I was 19 like a year ago. I feel like it. I remember New Year's Day 2020 and posting a post to Reddit about the whole 2020 vision joke. And now I'm 24 in 2025, close to 2026. My entire life is just slipping through my fingers, and I've got nothing I can do about it right now. I'm too inept in almost all meanings of the word, or in all contexts, that I've got no hope. And I think what really hurts the most is seeing the people around you flourish. Like, my mum, for instance, she's just got herself a new job, and she loves it. She gets to help people for a living. You know, that is rewarding. That is rewarding work, and I can see that, well, it tires her out, but she's really happy like with it, and that's great. And my friends as well. One of my best friends, he's younger than me. He's 11 months younger than I am, and is working in a job that is incredibly important, and is earning upwards of about 35 grand a year. And one of my other friends, he's a bit more like me in a sense, but he's still got a job. He doesn't live with his parents anymore, and he's doing okay. You know, he's functioning, and I'm just here. I'm sat here playing Grand Theft Auto 5, complaining about my life on the internet, and that's all I'm good for. I can't work. I've been told I can't work that well because my anxiety just skyrockets, and so for my own sanity and for those that I'm supposedly working for, I can't do anything. And so it's just beneficial for me not to work, and so my income is claiming off the government, and that doesn't help my situation more. That just makes me feel worse. And so I think for me, I just feel like I'm being left behind. And I remember in 2021, I I cut off one of my best friends at the time because, well, we were all in our 20s at this point. Granted, it was early 20s, but we're not teenagers anymore. We're not kids. Like me and most of my friends, we'd matured a bit, but this one friend, he hadn't. And so I sort of distanced myself from him for a long while, and I finally grew up the courage to say, sorry mate, I don't think this is working for me anymore. And so I cut him off, and that was because I felt like I'd outgrown him in a sense. Like, from what I've heard, he's doing a lot better now, and is actually, you know, making the right steps to forward himself. But I can't help but think that I cut him off because I thought he was too immature, and now he's probably doing more for his life than I will ever do for mine. And the irony in that is not lost on me. Um, and I just sort of think, well, I wake up every day, and every time, like, my friends tell me that they're doing something with their life, you know, oh, I'm going out to see my friends, or, you know, I've got a promotion at work, or I'm doing something for my family. It's just, and this is going to sound awful to say, but I feel physically sick when they tell me these things. Not because I'm unhappy for them, you know, I'm really happy for them that they're moving on and they're doing things with their life and doing things that I unfortunately can't do, but it makes me physically sick because, one, I'm jealous that they can just do that. Like, I'm filled to the brim with envy of their life and their sort of stability. And then the other thing that makes me feel sick is just knowing, well, if I can cut my friend off because I think they're weighing me down, how long until I'm that friend? How long until I wake up one day and I receive a text message or something that just says, yeah, I know you're struggling, but I think for me, I can't do this anymore, and so I'm sorry, but I don't think we can be friends, and then I'm alone again. I think a big one for me as well is the fact that because of my ASD, my ADHD, and my anxiety, I find it really the difficult is with going out as well. I find it really difficult to make friends in almost any setting. Um, Even though I play video games all day every day, I I still find it incredibly nerve-wracking whenever I have to talk to someone that I am unfamiliar with. Even if we both, I don't know, in a game or something, share the same objective, you know, I always have this constant nagging feeling in the back of my head of, am I going to do this wrong? And so that just bumps up my anxiety, and I can't really talk to people. You know, only this year I met a nice group of lads that we played Gmod with one night, and I was happy talking to them because I was drunk. That sort of obviously loss of inhibition there. I felt way more willing to talk to them, and I talked to them a couple more times after that. But every time I did, I felt so anxious to the point where I still think this was the best thing I could have done. I kept making excuses to like not play with them, and I think I could tell they were getting a little bit annoyed with that, and so I blocked them on absolutely everything. And I feel awful for doing that, but I would rather do that and then just go, oh well, he's a bit of a twat, isn't he, and then move on, instead of me just having to sort of keep saying, yeah, we'll do this. And so, because of this sort of natural reflex I have to sort of not make friends very well, I'm stuck with the friends I have, which isn't a bad thing. You know, the friends I have are absolutely brilliant. I love them guys. Like, they were my own family, but as soon as they go, that's it. I'm done. And I think that's what I'm holding out for. It's like, I know that a day is coming, or at least I'm certain a day is coming, where I'm going to be completely and utterly alone. I can barely talk to my family, bar one person, that being my mum. And so I think the day that comes where she dies, I'm going to end up becoming more of a recluse, which I think is just going to push my friends further away. And obviously they'll be too busy to do anything about it, which is fair enough. And so I will be completely alone. At which point, that will be when I finally end things. And I'm just kind of coasting until that day. It's not great. It's not a great feeling, waking up every day and thinking, well, that's another day just ticked off until I inevitably kill myself. And I know, obviously, that's the whole, you're not really thinking positively, you're not pulling yourself out of that, but I've got nothing to make me think otherwise. The rest of my family, I don't really, well, it's not the fact I don't get on with them, you know, they're nice towards me, and I'm nice towards them. And we see each other fairly often, a few times a year. But they will never truly understand me. Like my mum does, because obviously she lives with it. And so I won't be able to ever talk to them, even though they will offer their condolences and, you know, offer their help and whatnot. And so I already know that they're out of the question. And my friends, I don't like to burden them with troubles outside of, like, small things. So I feel like I'm being left behind. Like, slowly, no matter what I do, I'm trying everything within my immediate power, everything that I can sort of feasibly do well to counter things, but obviously it's just not that easy. And I think, again, the perfectionist mindset comes back in. It's sort of, well, you could try something to see if it'll work and help your situation, but it might not work. And my brain just sort of goes, well, if I'm not going to see results, there's no point. Like, I don't even try. And that goes with anything in my life. I've missed out on so many opportunities because I knew I wouldn't be able to do it great first time. And I think that's where a lot of my problems lie. And I can't bring myself to actually do anything. Like, there's no motivation there, and that just stems from so many issues, barely any of which I think will ever get addressed, and even less will get sorted. Like, it's just sad for me at the moment. I just feel like a charity case, and that is not a fun feeling to have when you're like the oldest in your friend group and you've got the least to your name. It's so demoralizing waking up every single day knowing that I'm just breathing and coasting through life. Like, it hurts a lot. And I know that obviously I'm not alone in that. There are tons of other people out there either in the exact same situation or far worse off, but it just feels so rough. And it just, every time I think about that, which is all the time because my brain is constantly on the go, it just pushes me down. Every time I sort of try to think positively, it's just, well, yeah, but this isn't going to go anywhere, and you're still going to be second best to everyone. So what's the point? You might as well just save yourself the energy and be in the exact same position you will be. And so I just sort of live with that. I just sort of rot every day. And there's nothing that I think I can do about that. And I think that is all I really want to talk about today. Well, this time. Like I say, the schedule on this is going to be so inconsistent. It might be once a day, 3 times a day, once a year. You know, I can't really predict things that are going to happen. But yeah, I think that's all I want to talk about. And so with that, I guess I will bid this first video farewell. And well, I suppose I'll see everyone in the next one. Well, in the case they decide to watch more. But yes, thank you for listening to me ramble, if you have made it this far. And yeah, bye bye.